It's interesting how these animals are such creatures of routine. For instance, we had to be away yesterday visiting some friends up in the city, and it's just fascinating that the fact that I came out here and only fed them once, they're acting like they're starving even though they got the same amount of food they always do. In fact, I gave them quite a bit, but just the fact that they didn't get fed twice yesterday, they're acting a little yowie. It's kind of interesting. And they're tracking me back and forth as I'm walking through this exclusion place where I'm about to peel this bale up right here. They're like tracking me instead of waiting like they normally do. I don't know what that is, but it just goes to show you can't pick, a different time every day to feed them. And I'm 20 minutes late because I woke up late with a headache, and I only fed them once yesterday, and they are acting out of sorts. I've been watching this morning. Maybe they'll do it some more. This one, the black heifer, and the American shorthorn steer have been butting around, and just by virtue of her having horns, I think they're roughly the same age. She might be a little older, but those horns, this guy doesn't stand a chance. She just kind of, she's happy to use those horns to push animals around. But I personally am a believer you should not. See, look, everyone's fighting today. Those are just two ewes deciding to have it out. I don't mind horns on cattle. My experience with them is that they know exactly where those horns are, just like they know where the tip of their nose is. And I've never been whooped on by a horn from one of these Highlands because they're intelligent and they're generally pretty docile. I had one wild one and I sold her. Well, I sold them all, but I sold her for sure. But anyway, we better get them feeding before they get any more yowly than they already are. So as you can see, we're moving further afield with Bale Grazing and feeding out on the land. As I'm looking at different places I want to feed, I'm trying to choose the tops of hills because they tend to have the poorest soil by, virtue of how gravity works with runoff and, every other thing. So that's why we're feeding here, because this thing slopes down, and it's hard to, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it's a 20 or 30 foot drop right there, and then the same over here. But I've been thinking a lot about next winter as we're kind of rounding the corner into the final lap of this winter, about what I'd like to do with my land management and great feeding management. And part of it's going to depend a lot on me carefully observing how this went out here this winter, because the other places I've repaired have been reclaimed from woods, and that's a little different because you're going from a fungal to a bacterial environment, and that's got a little bit of a slower turnaround, where I thinned out woods to make it like a silvopasture, got about another half acre back and fed in there heavily to jumpstart the soil. This is a little different. This is already grazing land, and so I'm hoping to see some noticeable improvements in these kind of thinner areas up on hills where I've been feeding. And I've been thinking a lot about sacrificial lot versus bale grazing out in the field, and I'm not certain, especially as my flock size continues to grow. Next year I'm anticipating carrying 70 or 80 ewes plus these cattle minus him. He's gone in June, through the winter, and so what do I do with that? The downside of being out here on the far, corner of my farm is that I got no electricity over here, no water over here, so I'm lugging water every day, chopping ice every day. And if I was doing a sacrificial lot like the bottom field behind my house, there could be water right there. There could be, electricity, so I could stop the tank from freezing over, which saves me a lot of time and headache. If any of you remember when I put a hatchet through the side of my tank, yeah. So it's just, I hope this works out as well as I think it's going to. And it makes all the bother worth it. A sacrificial lot, if managed properly, doesn't have to turn it to waste. It just means that you're concentrating a lot of valuable resources into one spot where they could otherwise provide a benefit. And I'm leaning that way next year, but I'm going to keep my mind open to look at what, this kind of impact. This is all this hay. Hey guys, look, the purple's coming off her face pretty nicely. So I'm hoping to come back here where there's all these weeds and really see some marked improvement. I'm sure there will be some weeds, but I'd like to see the grasses start to outcompete the junk that was in there. I can't decide if I want to go back to a feeding spot behind my house, like a sacrificial field, because I'm feeling lazy at this time of the year or what, but it's just going to require close examination of the pros and cons about time investment and a benefit analysis of what I've been doing out here. Let's talk about this dog. You'll note, hang on, let me zoom in. The old dog is back on the drag, and there's a good reason for that. Tire, lead, dog. This dog has earned her way back onto a drag. I let her off and said, let's do second chances, third chances for her, fourth chances for her. And I got a buzz on my phone. Friday morning. It was Friday morning because I had to work at about 5 a.m. and she was way out in the next farm over the field, zipping around. And then I said, okay, I'll go and get her. And she played anxiety tag with me for over an hour where she'd be running the border of my perimeter fence looking for a way to get back in once she busted out, and was kind of full of, you see she's a very anxious dog. And the other two dogs, when I drove out here at 5 a.m. in the pitch dark at 0 degrees, were sitting with the sheep, and this one was running laps around my neighbor's farm and my farm, and it took me an hour to catch her up. So I put her back on the drag because it slows her up enough to bump it, instead of blowing through my fence. And it's just a real disappointment. I took her on as a reclamation project, and I don't think it's going to go. My inclination is, she's not a pet, so I'm not going to bring her into the house as a pet. But my inclination is to just have her in the chicken pen, so she'll still have something to guard. She's not aggressive at all, so I've never seen her go after a bird when they were by the big animals. But you see that? I just touched her. Off she goes, like that. Just touched her back. So I think we're going to try to turn her into a chicken dog and repurpose her, because I don't want her teaching bad habits to my puppies, and they're doing a good job. So, why are we messing with it? So Anna and I were talking about it at length while we were driving yesterday, and we're going to keep her on the drag because it's not worth the headache and the irritation to track her down over and over again. It's nice to have that GPS collar because it makes it easy. But she's fast, and she knows it when I'm after her, and she knows she did something wrong. So we play tag until she gets tired and walks up to me and gives in. And it's annoying as all get out. And I don't want her to get hit by a car. We have highway this way, highway that way, and only that way is their quiet country. So the odds of her zipping around and getting hit by a car are pretty high. And I don't want that for her. So I think we're going to retire her from flock duty and put her on chicken duty, and she can have a lower stress job up near the house. I don't know. But that is why you see this dog zipping around on a tire again. It's not because I like to be cruel to animals. It's because I don't want her to follow these anxious instincts she seems to possess and end up road fodder. So, 2 steps back, 1 step forward. Wait, that's backwards. That's what it feels like, though. Well, we're doing afternoon feeding on chores right now. And you can see they're definitely bird dogging the food. I'm going to put out a little more, I think. We are heading into a very snowy period here. This upcoming week, it says we're going to have 4 days of snow. So Winter's coming to kick us in the butt one last time. Hey, Bob. Bob came for some pets. But the sheep are in great form. I'm excited to get past this late winter into early spring, even though it's still not very nice. But there's the old dog. I think I'm going to make her a chicken dog today. And then we'll see. But I need to find out where she somehow got off that drag I had her on. So I got to go find out where she hid that and then put her back on it, because I don't trust her a lick and I don't want her teaching the other dogs bad habits. But it's a cold and humid and windy, kind of nasty day. I mean, it's warmer than it's been, but it's one of those cold and damp days where you can't quite ever warm up. And what by I mean me, because these animals are thriving. I mean, look at them. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna go find her lead, and then she's going in to become a chicken dog. Well, here she is. She's a chicken dog. We're gonna park her in here for a while. She's turning into a bit of a Houdini. So she's in the greenhouse, so it's nice and warm in here. The birds aren't super happy, but they'll get used to it. Anyway.